Welcome, everybody, to episode 28 of That Moment, Heart to Heart Talk with Dr. Victoria Grinman. That is me. And today I'm here with Danielle Williams. Danielle, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. Danielle, you're incredible. I met you very recently and we became, I would say, close friends. I'm going to have you tell the world who you are, but you're an administrator, you're a mom to incredible kids. You are the founder of an incredible, I would say, movement, really, to destigmatize things inside of mental health. But I want you to introduce yourself. Who are you in this world and how do you contribute?
Oh, thank you. So good to see you, Victoria. So excited. My name is Danielle Williams. I am a special education administrator, but first and foremost, I'm a wife and a mother of two amazing children. My oldest, Alan, who is on the autism spectrum, and my youngest, Aaron, who has a speech and language impairment. So I am a mother of two boys with disabilities. And for me, I work as an administrator, special education as assistant principal, but I also advocate for my children in the school systems that they're in. And what I've also done is decided to start a small business entitled STIGMA Consulting Group. And STIGMA stands for Student Timely IEP Growth Modification Advocates. And what we do is help parents, we help students on anything that deals with special education. A lot of people think special education is this little circle that I'm showing you. No, it's a huge umbrella. And students with disabilities range from students with autism, from students who are just in a SETS class, students who are just in an ICT, or students who just have counseling. And so what I've made a choice to do is really help parents navigate school systems, understand their child's IEP, and help students transition from every school setting, from pre-K, elementary, middle school, and to high school and beyond. And I do things such as real talks, where it's just funny because I know your program used to be named that, where we just have conversations with experts. I have people coming in from all over the United States talking to us about different avenues to help our children. But I also talk about instruction. I talk about the new school normal, which is happening right now during the pandemic. Literally, March 19th will be a year of this pandemic started. Well, it's really today, but officially for me, I've been out of school building for a year, since March 19th. What has happened in that year? How are my children progressing? How am I progressing? And how am I managing as an adult, a working mom, and having two children as well? So that's just a little bit about me. And that's who I am.
I love it. I'm impressed by you because it seems to me like you, every time we've spoken, the optics I have on you is that you've got eyes in so many different realms. You are a mom of two kids, right? And you are so aware of the spectrum, the autism spectrum. Right. You are you were a lawyer, were you not? Right. Yeah. And so you have your eyes on that. You're an administrator, by the way, in Bayside, where I grew up.
Right.
I love that connection. And so you see it all. And one of the things that, and I want you to speak to this, but you have a very authentic, real, I would say in your face approach to really dealing with kids, teens, and parents. And you've described that to me in our conversations, and I like it because it's refreshing and it's real. Can you share a little bit about your mindset around that?
Sure. So one of the articles that I wrote, the blog that I wrote, was "It's Not a Death Sentence, the Other Side of the Gift." And my journey was originally when my oldest, Alan, was diagnosed with autism. And I was a teacher at middle school 217. I'll never forget this teacher, colleague of mine, Miss Mancino, said to me, I was crying and weeping and what's going to happen, because when that diagnosis happens, your dreams and visions for your children disappear. And that's what happened to me. They disappear, or he's never going to be able to do this. And the negatives come in play. Mancino came to me and said, "Dan, what are you doing? Look at you. Are you kidding me? You're not going to do this. It's not a death sentence." That's what she said to me. And she said, "Dry your tears. You're the right mother for this job." And that was it. And I dried my tears. I cried a little bit more. We had some lunch in the teacher caf, and then I got together. And I said, "This is ridiculous. I've got to keep it moving." So My attitude now is autism does not hinder my son's greatness. And any diagnosis for any child with a disability does not limit them at all. So we take state exams. The students take state exams. There's not one state exam that says this is for students with disabilities. So when I was a teacher, I used to tell my students, there's no state exam for students with disabilities, you guys. So I'm teaching you like a gen ed student with accommodations. And we're going to figure this out together. I have the same attitude when it comes to my children and it comes to teens. Do not limit yourself. I used to, at my school, I walk around and said, there's no S like a scarlet letter. You know that book, The Scarlet Letter? If you don't, read it. There is nothing tagged on your forehead or your shoulder that says you are a special needs student. Some are not even recognized, right? We don't see it. It's not visual. It's not unless it's physical. So there'll be mental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and physical disabilities. So for the teens that I work with, I tell them, who is telling you can't do something? I believe it's going to be harder for you. Absolutely. There may be some difficult times, but you can do anything. You can pass regents. You can do whatever you want to do. It may take you longer, but it doesn't mean you won't be successful. And I've really taught my teens that. For parents, I'm really blunt because I choose to be, because I've had to be really tough with myself. And when I get in those down moments, which do happen, I had to make a decision that my sons were going to be great. That's what I did. And at every IEP meeting for both of my children, I say very seriously to both of the teams that work with my sons. So you know both they're going to a 4-year institution, right? You understand that. How is this IEP getting them there? What services are we doing? What are we reducing? How are we changing? What else do they need? Not only do my children go to 2 schools, and they go to 2 different schools. One's in an ICT, one's in a specialized school, Tiggerman Middle School for autism. But both of them have 2 different services. The only thing that's relatable about both of my children is that they both have had OT and they both have speech still. So I've got 2 different schools, 2 different children, and they are looked upon differently because one has speech and language impairment and one is autism. They look at my son and say, he doesn't look autistic. I've gotten that more times than I can count. Or my son isn't he ADHD? You know, the questions of the visual stimulation. But what I've done with my parents is tell them, look, you can't allow anybody to be the expert of your child. You're the expert of your child. Be the expert of your child. So when you're having a meeting with your team, and I know because I'm a special educator, I talk about those special ed E's all the time, FBA, BIP, ICT, 15-1. You know, I can roll them down my tongue. Right. I can roll them down my tongue. Right. And the parent is sitting there going like this.
Right.
Oh my gosh, what did she just say? What is that?
Right.
So as an educator, and I've taken this into my business, I am responsible for breaking it down.
Yeah.
Not dumbing it down. Let me be clear. I'm breaking it down. I'm just saying, how does this IEP relate to what you're doing at home? And I always encourage my parents, listen to me, your IEP is not just a piece of paper where you have here and then you put it away in a folder. No, it's a living and breathing document, just like your child is living and breathing.
Right.
So take it out. Where I have a tutor, I have 2 tutors for my children. I give it to the tutors or they go to the IEP meeting, right?
Yep.
Like their grandmother has a copy, my husband, aunts, uncles, everybody has a copy of my son's IEPs so that they know how to help them as they're developing, not only academically, but socially and emotionally.
I love it. Danielle, one thing that sticks out to me most is I'm imagining that you didn't just get to this place overnight. And I imagine that the parents that you work with are very similar to the ones I work with, where there is that sense of, I'm the expert. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I know nothing about this. I didn't grow up with this. Like, I didn't expect this. So when you are working, I would imagine that some parents love your energy around how certain, clear, and supportive you are, because it's like seeing a possibility for someone who doesn't see the possibility yet for themselves or their child. And so how do you work with parents? How did that process look for you?
Sure. So It started with research. Especially with my oldest, I had no clue. None. No. I was so overwhelmed. I made the choice to say, okay, I'm going to pick myself up and let's go. You're getting everything you can for this child.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process, confusion. One of the things I've learned in my journey is that I'm not afraid to ask for anything. I'm not afraid to email anybody. So I did a couple of things. One, I started diving really deep into the IEP and becoming an expert in the way it's supposed to be formed, using my legal mind to make those structures on how it can clearly communicate for me. So, for example, in my children's IEPs, they're broken down by sections, in terms of the plot, which is the present level of performance. They are broken down by English, math, social studies, science. I need to see that. I need to understand so that that information can go directly to their tutors. So one, I became an expert of the document because this document communicates to any teacher or related service provider who my child is. You don't know my children. You don't know a face. Second thing I did, I started doing a little picture, like the books in the background. I made a little picture graph of my children. I started that about 4 years ago. And every year they go to a new school. I just send them this is Aaron, this is Alan. They're going to this grade. This is the parents' contact information. These are their strengths. These are their weaknesses. I have gotten nothing but compliments from the teachers and related service providers about that because they know that I'm learning about my sons. Another thing that I did was, even though my children, one child is in a small class and the other child is in a larger class, I want to make sure that they're socially apt. So I joined different organizations for them. I'm a member of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated in Queens chapter. I'm also a member of my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, National Association for University Women, which is today our Founders Day. I joined organizations that also incorporate inclusivity. Then I decided to do extra things. I decided to join panels and councils because not only am I an administrator, but I'm on the commissioner's advisory panel as a parent. So I need to know what's going on in the state because a lot of people say New York City is its own state. It's not. It's part of New York State. And in order to understand what's coming from Albany, you got to sit at the table, right? So I applied. I sit at the table. And I do that so I can learn policies and procedures and understand how they not only adapt to what I do at work and part-time with STIGMA and my children, but myself as a parent. Knowledge is absolute power. Reading is necessary. Joining an organization. At one point, I was joining a support group because I didn't understand what's difficult about having children with disabilities is sometimes you think everything's a disability and it's not. They're growing, right? I have a soon-to-be 13-year-old. So it's not, is it the autism? No, he's just a teenager getting ready to start talking about girls. It's like I'm learning how to separate that and let him grow up, as well as my 9-year-old, and let them grow up. So I've learned the process of research, but I've also learned the power of networking and talking to people and asking questions. And I'm not afraid some people say, I don't want to ask a stupid question. I don't care. I just don't understand this statement. Can you explain this to me? Because that IEP that I have for both of my sons is applicable at home. That's why you see me in the background with books that are leveled. And you see a poster on the back. And I do little tricks such as even on the weekends, I give them a little schedule on an index card that they can rip up. But both of them check it off. And then we're done for the day. We can do what we want. That structure really helps my family to function better even during the pandemic.
Danielle, you seem to me and to the people watching, I'm sure, as like a powerhouse, like go, Energizer bunny. And like, you're just so informed and you have this spirit about you where nothing's going to stop me. And if there's something that I have a question about, I'm just going to ask it. Like, you just don't allow those what ifs and what people are going to think. And I've spoken to you personally as well. So you definitely don't care what people think as long as you're on your mission, right? So integrous. And so I think that's so incredible. And I wonder, what do you do or what have you done in those moments where it didn't feel like you were so motivated or when things or not seemingly so easy for you, right? Because you know this now, but what was happening then? I'm just so curious how you built up to this. Like, is it just who you are? Is it like something that?
No, no. I mean, I think what I had to do was learn from myself. I suffered with very severe insecurities. I'm a
Mm,
woman who's bald. I deal with that. I lost my hair
mm,
at 40 because I had children. I have
mm,
alopecia. So there's, of course, been moments in my life where I've said, I am tired of this. Absolutely no question. I remember when my oldest was eating sand, but he loves the beach. That was challenging. I
mm,
remember when my youngest couldn't hear me and I was speaking loudly and he almost went deaf, and we got it. So we got the tubes and everything. And I'm glad. I have failed many times and been successful many times. With the schools that my children are in, that wasn't easy,
mhm,
especially for my oldest. We had to do two or three schools before we got to the middle school that he is, and we got to that right fit. I have children. My oldest is on ADHD medication, so he's autism spectrum with ADHD behaviors. So we had to make the choice about medication. Is he going to be a drug addict? This is exactly the conversation that my husband and I were having. Is he going to be a drug addict? Is he going to be dependent on this? Is he going to grow out of this? What do we need? But what I realized in that process, my husband and I realized, was if we can't see his potential in terms of what he could do in school, and if the medication is really going to assist him and getting him focused so I can see what he can do, then we won't know his potential. And that's why I coined the frame potential power possibilities for STIGMA Consulting.
mm,
There's potential in every student with disabilities, and you have to do it. You have to make those hard decisions. And going on medication was not easy. It's a scary thing to do.
mhm,
But you look at your child and you want to make sure they're healthy in this. But some parents don't. Some parents do. How are you accommodating your child is the best thing. In my darkest moments, what I like to do is go to the movies and completely relax. That is my happy place of anything. So if I'm
mm,
upset or anything I like to do, I am a movie watcher. I go to the movies and I will sit there and watch 3 movies and let myself go and come back. Yes, I do a lot, but I've created the same structures and systems for myself that I do with my children. My oldest gets up at 5:45. He has been that way since he was 7. He
wow.
is just an early morning child. So
Mhm,
guess what? I'm getting up at 5:45.
mm,
But there are days I don't want to. On Saturday, I want to say, "Can you give me till 7, please?" And then he'll crawl in the bed and just will watch a movie. But that's who he is. He's an early morning kid. My youngest is not. So I've had to do things in this household to make sure that we are following the same systems. When Alan fails, I fail. When Nikki fails, I call Aaron Nicholas Nikki, I fail. But I've also set parameters for their achievement. When I was a kid, my mother said to me, Danielle, if you get an 80, it's failing. That's what she said on any
mm,
test. So when my boys got into that 3rd or 4th grade, guess what? I did the same thing to them. And they looked at me and said, well, and they had the audacity. I say that. Well, we have IEPs. What did you say? I said, you living in my house? This is how I raised you, but that's what they do. Kids make excuses. But when I set that parameter of achievement, no less than an 80, they've been successful every time. And when
mm,
they faltered, they said, I've done the best. Let's go back. Let's look. So I'm creating children who want to be great in their academics and also want to be social. And of course, I have a teenager who's growing and his body is changing and we're dealing with it. I have a 9-year-old that sometimes can be very insecure, and we're working through that with counseling. But I am not afraid to get the help I need for my children. And I'm also not afraid to get the help I need for myself. I have very close friends who are there for me that I can talk to. I'm an only child, so my friends are my sisters and brothers. And I have a good core group that I can call, I can text and say, I'm not feeling this today. I'm just not here today. I'm not having it. I need to just lay this out, and then I need someone to say, Danielle, come back to reality. And I have those moments, and that's okay. But we all do as parents. So that's what I do.
Thank you for being so honest about that answer. I want to dig in a little bit about something you just said, which I think is so important. I was just talking to a couple of parents that I work with, and I hear this often, is this really big desire, right, for parents to have kids that have high self-confidence and high self-esteem. And with the, 80 is failing, right, and setting that parameter, how did you create a context where if 80 is failing, like meaning like you could do 80 at least, right? Like 80 is, and I'm proud of you if you try your hardest. Like, how did you balance those two, ends of the spectrum where your kids are confident and self-assured that they're not failures if they don't do an 80? How did you do that? What was
Well, I also took this from my classroom. I did this in the classroom. So I taught for 12 years, and I taught special education. Social studies was my content. I did English as well. And I didn't know how to teach when I started teaching. No way. I was a former attorney. I used every legal skill that I used. So I told my students, and I remember looking at sample exams for state exams, and I said to them, if I don't push you, then you are never, ever going to be as great as I believe you can be. When I first became a teacher, my first class, an incident happened in the classroom, and I came up with the phrase, whatever your potential is today, you will be beyond it by the end of the year. And I posted that in my classroom. And I had different levels. Students who were in my 7th grade class or kindergarten level, I said, listen to me, I need you to leave my classroom, not only learning social studies because I love social studies, but you're going to learn how to read the newspaper so you can get a job, so you can read a college application. I would do career days in my classroom. People would come out from different careers and show them job applications. I know one instance that happened, which is very nice. My husband came, and he's been working at Elmhurst Hospital for 30 years. He's still there. And he brought in an application for Elmhurst. And I kind of stepped back and let him do his thing. And he noticed that the students could barely fill it out. And some of the students said, well, I'll take it home and give it back. And he said, so understand this, as a supervisor, if you say you want a job now, and I've got an application for you now, and I can hire you, and you tell me you're taking it home, that's an indication to me that you don't read well. Light bulbs went off. The kids were looking like, what? What do you mean? That's not necessarily true. Maybe I just want to take time. Maybe I just, right. So it hit them because those stigmas happen with the way we look, the way we talk, the way we read, right? So those happen. And so I looked at them and said, you can do it. But it was good to come from someone from the outside. So I created that 80 in my classroom. I had bulletin boards and said, you will not get on this bulletin board until you get an 80. Students looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I don't care if it takes a whole year, but I promise that I will change that bulletin board every 2 weeks. Some students took a month. Some students took 6 months. Some students, I'll never forget this student, June 1st. And we put it and we framed it and the whole class cheered. And I said, that's what I want you to do. I want you to reach what you can do. Now, guess what? Everybody in class got an 80. I'm about to make the test hard. They were like, oh, Miss Williams. They groaned. But you have to reach for a goal.
Yeah.
And so when I did that to my sons, I did it to my oldest first, and then I did it to my youngest, they kind of looked at me and said, well, what if I don't get it? Well, if you don't get it, I'm going to be disappointed. But that doesn't mean you're a failure. I said, please know that mom failed many tests in her life. And I told them the story of me failing bar exams and this. And I said, I didn't become a really good test taker until I was 27. I had to learn how to be a good test taker. I am a terrible multiple choice test taker. I hate multiple choice. I'm always between the last two. I can't stand it. But you give me an essay, flying. I'm done. There's no issue. So when I took my state exams to be a teacher, an administrator, district administrator, I would tell the proctors all the time, so you're going to make your 4 hours. I'm not going to leave 1 minute earlier. And I finally came up with a plan of I would do about 20 questions, take a 10-minute break, 20 questions every 10-minute break, stop completely, take another 20 minutes, and then do the essays. And that breaks in between. So as a special educator, I'm using the same structures that I would do with my students. And all those tests I passed with flying colors. So I had to learn. So one of the things I used to do with the kids when you talk about that 80 cap, I would do the legal cheat sheet. And this is what we called it. I said, no, you're not allowed to cheat, but we're going to make it fun. I would test my students multiple choice, essay writing, short answers, political cartoons. And I would analyze which one got the strongest score. Now, all the kids always say multiple choice is the easiest. No, but guess what? You got most of these wrong, but your political cartoons are the best. So what I would do is once I did that analysis, I would tell my students, based on their analysis, you have to start with the multiple choice. No state exam says you have to go from left to right. You can go inside. It's a puzzle piece. So I would focus on the students and say, okay, my political cartoon group, these are your political cartoons. You're going to master this skill. My multiple choice group, you're going to master it because it's about gaining points.
Yeah.
It may not be about all the knowledge. So when I did that with them, my students started flying, and those 80s, 90s, 100s were coming just like this.
Yeah. So you're teaching them about their own strengths and how to navigate without, they don't necessarily thinking outside the box and breaking down the anxiety around what they should do and thinking about what's the best route for me to take based on what I'm good at. And I love that.
It's strategic. A lot of people, the kids will sit there. When I was a teacher, I did this every year I taught. I gave a directions test. I know educators on this line have heard this. I would give them a bogus test, and the top of the directions said, and I do this the first week of school, please write your full name and date and answer no questions and sign on the bottom. 40 minutes I was sitting in the classroom just doing my work, and they're just struggling with some test I made up. They would come to me, I'd give them a 0. What do you mean? Does this count? It may not, but you're going to tell me why you got the 0. The students would sit back, and they learn it, and they learn it. And at the end of the day, on that Friday, I would say, first lesson of the year, you're always to read the directions. And it clicked, because sometimes the directions give you a hint of what's going to happen in the exam, in the essay, in the context.
In life.
Right, in life. So read directions. And my students always laugh about this. Like, Miss Williams, I cannot believe you said it, and it worked every time. And they loved it, but it was a good lesson for them for not only school, but for their life in general. Yes.
Danielle, I want to take a different turn because this is also a topic that comes up for me. You've talked a lot with me personally and then in this interview about your marriage and the teamwork. And I just happen to know, because I work so much with parents with children on the spectrum, the divorce rate is so high among parents who have children with special needs. And I work with these parents quite often and just see how easy it is to disconnect, lose, the teamwork approach, and really be on different pages in the personal journey of parenting a child with special needs, especially, children with autism. Not that I think that any marriage is perfect.
No.
How have you and your husband created this context of teamwork and really, if I dare say, thriving, not merely surviving through all of these years? How have you done that, and what can you share about it?
Sure. So we've been married almost 15 years in November. My husband and I are best friends, and at times we talk like best friends. What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, we're having deep arguments like we're brother and sister. When we first got the diagnosis of Alan, my oldest, we weren't on the same page. I said something's not right. And my husband at first said, oh, he'll just grow out of it. But he's been right, and I've been wrong, and then he's been wrong, and I've been right. Where there is things that Alan is growing out of, and he's right. He came on board because he loves his sons, period. And when we got the testing and he saw what he needed, that was the end. That was the end of any discourse. Yeah. We're going to get whatever we need for our children. So I have Alan, my oldest, and a lot of people say, statistics say that if you have one child who is with disabilities, you'll have another. And I know I hesitated. There was something about Alan that I knew he needed to be a brother. I wish I could tell you why. There's something in his soul that I knew he needed to be a brother. So I had another child in 2010, but unfortunately I lost him on Mother's Day, Danielle Nicholas. And I made the decision after that tragedy, which brought us closer together, that Alan needs to be a brother. One, because it'll help him develop more. And I was lucky to be able to have another child. And two, because I knew there was a caring spirit. And it couldn't be just me or my husband. It had to be someone else. So when we had Aaron Nicholas, who's my third child, who we used to call Eric because he couldn't pronounce Aaron, which is hysterical, until this day. I remember when Alan came into the room, I literally said to Alan, "This is your gift." I know I regret that decision now because when they argue, you were a gift. Mommy gave you me as a gift. And it always happens in some contests. I'm the older brother. It's so funny to watch them. But I knew I did the right thing there. And when Alan saw Aaron Nicholas, another light bulb went off. I need to take care of him. I need to help him. I need to guide him. Now he's kind of getting on his nerves. Sometimes I'll play with you, sometimes I will. But Alan is stronger in reading, and Aaron Nichols is stronger in math, and that's just luck. So when they help each other, Aaron will literally help Alan with the math. Even though Aaron's in third grade, Alan's in seventh, he's helping him with the math. And Alan helps Nicholas read, and they're working together. And they're fighting, of course, as boys do, but they work together. And I knew that, to be honest with you, Victoria, was important. And David and I made a decision. We're going to have more than one child. We're going to have a unit. And what we do in our unit is we communicate. Sometimes, yes, we go to our own spaces and do our own thing, but David has been on board. He was on the Community District Education Council for 29, not only as the first vice president, but also as a representative for students with disabilities. He himself has become more invested, has done more research, has decided to apply to different councils and this and that and the other, so that he's involved. Does it get difficult at times? Yes, because transitions are happening. I was like, oh God, he's a teenager. Dave, you have to talk to him. I can't talk to him. You have got to talk to him. I don't want to talk. We're going through that right now with the girls. And I was like, I can't do it. So mommy gave Alan a book. and Daddy talked to him. Right. It was about, puberty and all this stuff. I said, I can't do it. Here. Got him a great picture book. But Alan loves it. And then he goes to his father. I'm like, yay, that's how we work. We know our skill set.
So what I'm hearing is you leverage one another's strengths.
Yes.
You communicate.
Yes. Good or bad. It could be good communication. It could be bad communication. But in terms of their IEPs, we both made a commitment. We know at the beginning of every school year, okay, when's the IEP meeting for Aaron? When's the IEP meeting for Alan? We're taking the day off. Period. You don't even hesitate. So that's 2 days. That's a day. That's 2 days out of our bank. Yeah. We're taking 2 days. Right. I need complete focus for this IEP meeting to give 100%. We involve other people. We always have somebody else come to our IEP meeting. My husband and I have never gone to an IEP meeting alone since Alan's difficulty. We're like, no. Even though people consider me an expert, nope. I become mommy. Yeah. And I'm writing notes. So I need you, Victoria, somebody else to come and listen and say, Danielle, look at this, look at this. So we always do that. We also involve other people in their lives. We've made a choice that other people can help our children that are from different walks of life. We've got Uncle Chris, we've got Grandma, we've got, when Grandpa was alive, we've got Grandpa, we've got other aunts and uncles that are in different organizations that come and take them. So I am treating my children like normal children. They're going on play dates and they're hanging out. Yes, they have disabilities. Call me. Danielle, I'm going to take Alan to this activity. Do we need any accommodation? Yes. He may need a little earplugs or put a headset in his ear because if it's too loud, it'll make him shake. Okay. And we move on. So my openness and my husband's openness about our children and what their need has helped our marriage and helped our family unit.
I love it. And do you, this is such gold, right? Do you have, in addition to agreements, do you have check-ins that you do or any sort of touch bases, or is that just like a natural part of the community?
No, that's a natural. There's no way. There's a natural. It is. I'm a very organized person. I color code everything by colors. My husband's purple, I'm red, Aaron is green, and Alan is blue. So anything comes up, we have communication via email or text. IEP meeting for Alan's coming up on the 22nd. Dave, the IEP meeting is coming up. Make sure you're here. It's 11 o'clock. We need this. We need this. We need this. Okay, let's get a tutor who's going to come in on the meeting. It's on Zoom. Do you want to do it together? You want to be in the same room or not? It's kind of flowing. And now we're thinking about summer school and things. What are we doing? My son, my oldest, is in a 12-month program. He's always going to summer school. He likes it. That structure is great for him. My youngest hasn't. But when he did go to summer school, he loved it. So now I'm already investigating. I'm going to put him in a small program because he loves a little bit of structure, 8 to 12. Then he's free for the rest of the day. Right. So it is free flowing. What Dave and I have made a decision is that we will not give up on our children, period. That's the decision we made. And that helps our communication, even when it gets bad, even when we think it's embarrassing, even the days where our children were crying and yelling and screaming on the floor in public places and we didn't want to go out. We did make that decision. Oh, no. I'm not going to be this parent. I'm not sitting in the house keeping my kids in a cave. Nope, we're going out. We're going to, when Alan was eating sand, and I remember it, but he loves the beach. He's born on June 30th. I was like, okay, I got to figure this out because we're going to the beach. And going to the beach with Alan have been some of our most personal moments when he's gone with me just by himself, or when Nicholas, who was a winter baby, February 21st, can't stand anything about the beach. He's like, I don't want it, but let's go snow tubing. All right, we're going snow tubing and we're going out in the snow and we're going, doing snowball fights. But I exposed him to a lot of things and I just take my time. My children didn't walk at 12 months. Neither one of them did. It was 14 or 15 months. Mm-hmm. Both of my children weren't potty trained until, we're talking about 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. Who talks about that now with them? Nobody. Mm-hmm. Nobody. There's no shame in it. My youngest is now learning how to ride a scooter. So I showed him a video about how to ride a scooter. And I said, take this video and go for it. See what happens. So every day, because he's home for the week until the school opens up on Monday, he goes outside for 20 minutes, practices the scooter. And then he tells me about it and he listens to me. So communication for all of us is there. What I find with my children is that they don't write as much as they want to speak, and that we're working on that with their tutors. But for David and I, we have to communicate. He's been working at Elmer's Hospital since this pandemic. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the mental strain on him? Mm-hmm. And it has been a mental strain, but what's going on? What's happening? You're right. You want to sleep. He knows what he needs to do for his sons and the effort that he makes with them, as well as for everyone else in our family.
I love that. And I like so much your acknowledgement of him, right? The importance of just like being in somebody else's shoes. Danielle, this was such an incredibly insightful conversation because it's people like you who have these stories, right? And you're able to articulate it so well. And it's like, you're a bright light for what, for a lot of people, especially with very young children, is a very dark corridor at this moment, right? But you're just kind of like, nope, it's a pathway, it's a journey. There's light at the end of the tunnel, right? It's just finding out your strengths, your child's strengths, and how you're going to get there, right? So it's figuring that out. And then I love STIGMA Consulting Group, and I would love for you to share, how can people get in touch with you and what is possible in you working with them? Like, what can they depend on in reaching out to you?
Absolutely. So with STIGMA Consulting Group, you can look at the website, www.stigmaconsultinggroup.com. You can follow me on Instagram with STIGMA Consulting Group. You can look for me Facebook with STIGMA Consulting Group as well. So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn as Danielle N. Williams JD, and I'm on Facebook as Danielle N. Williams JD as well. What you get from me is, one, the reality of the situation that we're in. how difficult is it to be in COVID with children with disabilities? It's astronomical because I'm not necessarily the expert in everything that my children need. So I've had to learn, excuse me, I've had to learn the technology. Oh, I now know WebEx, I know Zoom, I know, what's the other one? Microsoft Teams, Google Meets. My children knew it better than I did. Oh, no, I had to learn all of that. I had to learn how to sign on and get it all together. I had to learn how to organize. You will get to know myself as a person, and I'm here to listen. You can get real talk series that I have every other month on different topics. The next topic we're going to have is on April 3rd with Beth Felson from Spectrum Autism Spectrum Training. And she's really going to talk about transitioning from middle school to high school to college. And what I'm going to give you is vision. You can still have exactly, or the vision you have for your child. Do not give up on that vision. Figure out how they're going to get it in their way. And so we read IEPs together. And if we don't understand them, we go back. Or we talk about what we can do in the schools, and we talk about extra tutoring. And I give resources to people that I know who are really helping parents and children with disabilities in the United States.
I love it. You're such a bright light. I feel so in such good hands. Even
well, we're good friends.
Yeah. I love you, Danielle. Thank you so much. And is there anything you want to leave people with? I mean, you've dropped so much gold, but a quote, a mantra, just a line. What would you like to leave people with?
So, yes, the quote that I always say is potential, power, possibilities. The goal is students or children can reach their potential. They have the power to do anything they want, and they have endless possibilities. There is no one in this world that can tell you that or tell your child that. And do not let anybody tell your child that. There are ways to figure it out. Yes, it may take a longer period of time, but they can achieve it. So that's what I would leave everyone with. Just keep going. As my youngest says, keep it moving, mommy. Let's go. Let's go. Let's keep it moving. And we just keep it moving and we keep chugging along. And that's what we're doing. And we're taking it the best we can. In COVID, I know it's been difficult. Keep going because they need you and they love you as we love our children.
Keep it moving. Danielle, this is an incredible, incredible conversation. I hate that we have to cut it because I can talk to you forever. But thank you. Thank you for being here with us and for sharing so much of your story. I appreciate it so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you so much.